Hi there, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Beneath the Lift Tower. My name's Charles McGillivray, and as always, I'm joined by Jess Keble and Simon Stacey. We're a fans podcast by fans for fans of Northampton Saints. How are you both doing?
Good, thank you.
Good, thank you, mate. Always good to beat them up their own, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think we both, all three of us, were probably a bit like surprised by the result. Definitely by the nature of the result. I'd say.
Yeah, when you saw the teams, you would think they've gone a bit stronger than we have, but it just shows the DNA goes through to the little ones as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, I think it shows you the value in motivation when it comes to rugby, probably more than any other sport, in a sense of like we were bang up for it. They were the players who played, all of them were outstanding in energy and effort and as well as skill, obviously, but they properly up for it. Whereas you sort of got the impression from Tigers that they weren't in it. They weren't, especially after that first try. It was very, heads went down and they sort of slowly walked back. There wasn't a lot of energy. There wasn't a lot of desire to play. Obviously it was effort and everything. Players don't not put it in, but it just, we're talking about fine margins, and it just seemed that our players were properly bang up for it and went out and delivered. And you know, I think you might disagree, Jess, but for me, the only player who looked like he was putting any effort in for Tigers was Jimmy Connor. Like James O'Connor, I thought was like their one player. He was everywhere. He touched the ball a billion times. He was the only one who did anything for them in terms of making stuff happen and moving the ball to the edge. But they just, yeah, gaps, and very similar to that Bath result a few weeks back, I think.
Yeah, and it's a weird one because I looked it up after because I hadn't really paid that much attention to where we were in the pool. Um, like Leicester are top, like
Yeah,
they're still top, but like they're best placed to like go through and get a semi-final and like potentially like win that competition. So it just was bizarre to me. But like you said, it was just not that they didn't care, because I don't think it's ever really happened that they don't care, but yeah, there was a clear distinction between the two teams in terms of who really wanted it. And like, I didn't think, to be fair, I didn't think that James O'Connor wasn't trying. I just don't think he was very good. But then, but sometimes trying is sometimes the whole point of it, right? Like, he was trying. He was trying to catch balls. He was, trying to set things up and get things moving. But it's sort of difficult, I guess, when the rest of the team kind of, but yeah, it's just really lackluster, which is not what you'd expect at any point when our two teams play each other. Like when we'd spoken to like Finn last week, like even he had said, the whole thing of Leicester versus Saints, like it's drilled into them at all levels, for all tournaments. And I was like, it must be the same up there, because I can't imagine that it's not. Like, I mean, I always remember like Freddie Stewart doing an interview not that long ago saying like, I hate to say it, but I'm friends with the Northampton Saints lads, but when we're on the pitch, like we hate each other. So it's definitely still drilled into them of like, this is the team that you're supposed to beat. You're supposed to really be up for it. And I didn't know how the result was going to go either way. I didn't really know. I had seen a lot of the discourse online was like, well, they've put out a good team and we sort of haven't, and it's going to go really badly. So I'm kind of glad that it didn't. But even still, I wasn't expecting like to be 40-10 up at one point. Like that.
no,
I really wasn't. I really wasn't expecting that to happen.
no, I don't think anyone questions the ability of the players that Saints put out. I don't think that it was just
No.
the sheer volume of experience that was in that
Yeah.
Tiger side that was completely different. And it's interesting because it's almost vice versa to what happened when we sent our side to
Hmm.
theirs in this comp. I thought we went pretty strong in terms of experience at Tigers, and their side looked pretty inexperienced, and they turned us over. It's like the reverse has happened almost. But it's not like uh, their players. Not like they picked a first team necessarily, but almost everyone in that side has played for their first team this year. They've all got first team experience, and the likes of O'Connor, Bailey, Parise, etc., have got an awful Harry Wells have got an awful lot of experience. But then, having said that, you look at our side and you think, well, Slytome's played an awful lot. He's contender for first team players. Tame has played a lot of first team rugby now. Um, McParland has played a lot of first team rugby. Walker obviously has got a lot of experience. Prowse has played a lot of first team rugby. Lockett's played a lot of first team rugby. Graham's played a lot of first team rugby. Other than a few of those, whilst they're on their younger age groups, they're actually experienced professionals and actually consistently delivered at the top level. So it's just because of the absence of the stars almost. But
Mm.
you also think the side that Saints put out, it makes perfect sense because who was missing? Like who it was almost that was the team that was available because you're not going to play your first choice back row. Kemeny, Pearson, and Chick have all deserved a rest. JJ's deserved a rest. Hendy's played an awful lot of rugby. They were really the only other contenders that were available and fit to sort of to be that was the best that we could put out. Essentially, I would have said as well.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's always good to be able to win over them, and it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if it's 3-0. I don't really care. Like me and you both said. When I saw the team after you said, "Oh, we're putting out quite a young team," we were like, "Oh God, we're going to get battered." But because I was obviously I didn't get to see the game, unfortunately, because I was working. But yeah, I've got my Garmin on, so I kept getting the chance. I was like, "Blooming hell, what the hell was it? Was it 40-10 at one stage?" I was like, "My days, what's going on here?" But yeah, it was good to see. It was kind of like a lower rugby, like the under 18s playing the veterans, wasn't it? At some page, like you said, James O'Connor. How old is he now?
About
He's got
35, 60 odd caps for
Yeah,
Australia.
say man,
35.
he's
So, yeah.
seems like he's been around for like 30 years. That boy.
There
He
was
started
one.
young, didn't he?
Yeah, he did start very
He
young.
did, yeah.
He was the wonder king of Australia rugby at one point. But there was one moment when he got like an intercept and stepped a man and got through
Yeah,
into a bit of space, and you just thought, oh, in his heyday he would have absolutely gassed it down the wing then. But you could
really.
tell that the legs didn't have it in him, and he actually set up the try, didn't he,
They
by getting
scored
it back
from it,
in.
yeah.
Yeah, getting it back in field. But you just think back in the day he would have actually put a bit of toe on and he would have got there. But yeah, he like I said, I think his class was there. It's just
Mm.
um, it's very like it was very similar to Marcus Smith a few weeks back when we played Quins. When I again thought he had a pretty, I thought he was actually trying doing things. But when you're in those sort of playmaking roles, you're so reliant on the energy and the front foot ball and the players around
Yeah.
you hitting the right lines and stuff. And yeah, but when we talked about the young players, I think there's one player we should obviously highlight. And it's one when you looked at the team, you thought, "Oh, that's a challenge." Was young Pater at 10?
Yeah,
I mean, he looks a player, doesn't he?
he does. He's looked a player for a while, like bit like not obviously on the same level as Pollock, but where you watch Pollock when he was 15, 16 and went, that boy's going to play like a lot of games for the Saints and international level. And this boy looks like he's very talented and should move from fullback to fly half. And from what I saw, he didn't look like he struggled too much, but he kicked well. He's even Douse. I don't know if you've watched the game back, but they went over to Douse just as we were scored a try, and Douse called it. He went, "We're going to go left,
Yeah.
right, left," and then he went, "Yeah, James Pater," and they said, "Right, can you just do that in a high pitched voice so we can keep it?" But yeah, he looks class. He looks another one through the academy. It's getting silly now. It's good, but it's going to cost us. It's going to cost us because we can't pay for all of them. Even though Hendy's just signed, by the way,
Yeah,
another contract, which is a good one.
it's a good one. Yeah, yeah. I think Pater like it's funny as well. So just to pick up on the point you made there about when Dowson was commentating on that play, right? We do that play all the time. The first team play that run all the time. Very rarely works, right? But also, I would also point out that if you look into the fine detail of it, that play against Bath a few week when we beat them down there, and they pulled a try back for holding Urbano off the ball. And me and Jess debated that on the pod, etc. If you look at that play and look at the actions of a certain Tonga Weir, he is manhandling a man and making sure he doesn't get into that gap. It's exactly the same play, just different interpretations, different level of reffing perhaps, but
Yeah.
different TMO interventions, whatever. But it was identical. It was exactly the same play, and it just shows you the inconsistency of things because it was identical.
Yeah.
But the point of Pater was he looked such a good player, and he looks so natural. His movement's great. He's physically looks a good player. His skills are really good, but I don't see him as a 10. I think there are options when he should have shifted the ball and the ball was there to play, and he did the right thing if he wasn't confident of not playing it, cutting back inside, trying to beat the man in front of him, etc. Whereas I think an out 10 would have pulled the trigger and passed the ball. But you can tell his overall skill levels and his physical ability and his composure in those moments, even though he wasn't pulling the trigger, etc. But his composure to keep the ball and do the right thing in his eye, it shows you how good a player is. And I think if he is solid enough under the high ball, he could be a hell of a 15.
Yeah, it's quite a specialised position, though, isn't it? 10, and he's only played.
Yeah.
I think he's only played 15 for us, hasn't he?
Yeah.
You wouldn't think it's a massive difference, but it is. Because in your head, when you're 15, you literally get the ball and you go, and you run. Whereas at 10, you've got to be more. I need to pass. I need to think where I'm going. Am I going to kick it? But if he could play both, like a bit like he could be our new Furbank. There we go. We'll bloody him as the new Furbank.
It does make you think when they're promoting Pacer and announcing Hendy signing, etc., whether there might be another bit of news around the corner just to,
Yeah.
But anyway.
I feel like you also have to put like that performance in context as well. Like it isn't. Yes, you could argue that like I think 15 is probably I don't know if it's a position he prefers, but it's a position that he's played and that we are familiar with him in. But like to step into a 10 role for the first time at that sort of level, and to play that well when your opposite number is someone that's played 70 times for Australia and has like the amount of experience that he does, like that's probably quite daunting. It's like, oh, I'm not just playing 10, I'm playing against someone like James O'Connor, who I know at one point, like you said, was like the wunderkind of like Australian rugby and was like, before certain things happened with him, like was going to go on to be like one of the greatest. Like, to put it in the context of that performance in that specific situation just makes it all the more impressive, even if it's not necessarily where they see him long term. And I thought that he worked really well with it. Helped as well, I suppose, that like McParland is still on this just ridiculous run of like incredible performances. That like having them two as a pair sort of work really well and play really well and up to a good standard just meant that like that whole performance just was like really good from start to finish. And I thought, I mean, I know that obviously they gave it to Graham in the end, but I can't help but think that McParland and Pater can't have been far behind in terms of the like man of the match discussion. Like there were some people that really, really put their hand up to be selected, and they mentioned it in commentary, that McParland sometimes shows like shades of Mitchell, and I was like, well, when you learn from the best, it's going to help you on your own journey to hopefully become the best. Like we've got such good talent in that particular area right now, and I know obviously it wasn't that long ago that McParland had struggled slightly in a couple of performances, but he's taken that, he's worked on that, and he's really, really pushing, to get his name sort of at the very least the name in the 23. Obviously, I don't think anyone's really at the level of challenging Mitchell at this point, but if you can get yourself consistently there in the 23, playing week in, week out, that's only going to be really good for when the inevitable time comes that, Mitch is ready to move on, retire, whatever it might be. It's obviously a few years away now, but if you can kind of keep someone like McParland in the squad, that's really useful for future planning.
Yeah, he was man of the match in my opinion. I thought he was exceptional. I thought the pace and energy that he brought, and then the execution of skills he delivers is just exceptional. I think the point there being about whether he's not up to Mitchell standard or whatever it may be is the fact is you can play him in big high level games and not be worried that you're not going to get the level of performance. So yeah, you might need your Mitchell for your, I don't know, your big European games, your big Premiership games. But if you're playing, a Premiership game, you could probably feel comfortable in having McParland in the side, and giving the opportunity to rest Mitchell and get the best out of him over a course of a season, because he plays an awful lot of minutes, and not only does he play an awful lot of games, he plays a lot of minutes in those games. He often comes off very late in the picture as well. So to be able with the rise of McParland might see us be able to give, and especially as he's 28, I think now Mitchell, the legs are gonna catch up on him eventually. So if you can ease him out and give him a bit more rest for a season, it can only be a good thing, I think. And Interesting you say about Pater opposite James O'Connor. I think that's a really good parallel because you could argue that what happened with O'Connor was because he was seen as the next best thing in Australian rugby. They shoehorned him into 10 when he wasn't a 10, he was a 15 really, and it's taken him a long time to actually be really comfortable as a 10. But he came through as a winger slash 15, but he was a superstar. So they sort of, it was Robbie Deans at the time, pushed him into that 10 role. And he was like an 18-year-old kid starting for Australia at 10, having never played there before. And they just expected it. And that pressure was too much. And, he came to Europe and all sorts, whatever. But you got to be careful of that because Pater did a really good job in that fixture against that opposition. But you could argue where Saints had a lot of front football. I think we had 67% of the ball. We dominated possession, we dominated collisions, and so he was able to just attack, attack, attack. When you come up against tougher opposition, game management becomes a really key skill in that position, and that's possibly where, having not played it at many levels, he would be pushed and pressurized a bit more. So you don't want to risk his ability at 15 by shoehorning him into a position where he's going to have to learn on the job already late, already a bit late to be doing so.
I'm loving you just said when we play against tougher opposition. That's just like a dagger in the heart. Twist it.
Yeah, well, that was a cup game, wasn't it? But I mean, if he was playing against Gloucester away, with a shed in full swing, it's a tough place to be a 10, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just an interesting one. But he's got all the skills. I think Jake Sharp called him a beautiful player in the interviews before. So the headline on the paper was "Beautiful player starts at 10."
I get that now. I get that. I saw that headline. I didn't get what he meant.
Yeah, he said he was like a really beautiful rugby player, and I was like, oh God, like you sort of worry sometimes when like a coach is bigging someone up before they've performed, and like when you know that they're going to be playing in a position that like we haven't seen them in before. I'm like, please don't let this jinx him, please don't let this jinx him. But it seemed to work absolutely fine. But I mean, there's just like like the whole performance, like there's such like a level of like joy watching Northampton at the moment, like across all of the levels. Like I don't know if we're going to win anything this year. Like we're in really good positions in like the Prem in Europe, obviously. Like we're still in good positions to like go for it. But you never know what's going to happen. Everything's tight, everything's close. But like at the very least, like I've been a season ticket holder like on and off for a really long time, but consistently since I was 21. So I'm in my 10th season now, and like this is probably the year out of all the years, even when we got to European final when we won the Prem, where it's like there's like a certain level of just like of joy being able to watch them week in week out, how much they're enjoying it, how much the crowd are enjoying it, like all the sellouts are showing that, but also that you're seeing it at all of the levels, because like that performance was just so good on Saturday, and like I felt like the atmosphere was so good. That's probably the best atmosphere for a PRC game. Like obviously helped that it was a sellout, like not every seat was filled, like some season ticket holders are probably not attended, but it was pretty full, and it created such a good atmosphere, and that also really helped the players as well, I think. So yeah, it's just such a good place to be in at the moment. And then obviously you mentioned like Hendy re-signing, and it was Prowse a couple of days before that. Like the work the club is doing at the moment, to keep as many of them as they can, but also just the obvious desire that there is for them all to stay. Like they'd done an interview, hadn't they, with like I think it was with Mitch and Finn, and they were just like, I get to play with my mates, I get to have fun, and it just so happens that my best mates also happen to be like world-class rugby players. Like, and that's kind of the aura that the club has at the moment. Like it's like friends first and like camaraderie first, and then it just so happens that everyone has all of the skill and the talent, which is always a big bonus. But like, and I know that it was the whole thing when Phil said it against Leinster, like there are not teams out there like us, and I felt that's become even more obvious this season, that they really don't feel like I've seen any other team in the Prem or any of the other tournaments where the vibe around the players in the camp and how they feel playing with each other. Like I've never seen that at Saints, and I don't know if I've ever really properly seen it from sort of other teams. Like they're in such a kind of blessed position right now.
No, it's weird though, isn't it? It's weird how we've watched them the last few years just progress and progress, but there's like another level now. It's like it's just something's happened. There's the only coaches we've changed is the scrum, isn't it? So it's not like in that. I don't understand, because like it's so intense, it's so quick, and every player is at it. Even the forwards have got quick hands, which is just it's every single player has it in, as they call it, the DNA now. It's just so lovely to watch, and every week we're spoilt really. it's just insane to watch them boys play rugby. And like you said, there's nobody like us out there. We will lose games because we will get beaten in different factors of the pitch, but there's no one that plays rugby like we do. It's like the Harlem Globetrotters of rugby.
I'm not sure about that, but I think what it is though is like there are teams like Saints, but they're in terms of the environment of what they produce and that academy driven philosophy of and you got to credit Jim and Dusty Hare for building it, and then Boydie coming in and just knitting it all together. That concept of DNA. I think is it Dr. Crick who was from Northampton who was part of the team that discovered DNA, so it even clinks into like Northampton as a whole thing, but and then the quality of that hands-on coaching that you get from Vesti and Craig and Yako, etc. Like it's all knitted together. Like the Leinster model is probably very similar in the sense of they have all their pathways. They're all from the same region. They're most of their squad is driven through their academy, right? But there aren't any clubs. Provincial teams, yeah, that regions, whatever. That's how they work. There aren't any clubs doing what we're doing. I don't think there are, especially in France, where more obviously money's more abundant. But you look across the Prem, and I think clubs are starting to follow us. I think we were probably sort of first to market in the sense of jumping on, working out that this is the right model for rugby clubs. But you look at the side that Tigers put out, and you think, well, where are the youngsters? Where is 15 players from the Leicester Academy? There isn't. They haven't got. I think something like 70% of our squad is academy built. That isn't the case anywhere else. And it really shows the value in producing that, because you get the added bonuses of, oh, I get to go and play with my mates, and you get the fact that they've been playing on the same pitch since they were 15. You get all that. You get the fact that, oh, I really love this club. It means something to me. I'm going to sign with them for a bit less money than I would get elsewhere, and because it means something to me. You get all those, but it's the right model, and in putting it in place, you've got to credit the club, and you just hope that they stick with it and even double down on it. I'd love to see in a few years' time that number not being 70%, being 90%, and you just cherry pick a few beautiful, the JJs and the Bellews of the world, etc., come in and add a little bit of difference that we haven't been able to produce in the region. But yeah, you keep going. It's the right model. When you look at someone like Billy Pascoe, for example, he's been playing a lot of games at Bedford this year, and you could argue that if Litchfield or Lumley were fit, they might have had ahead of him. They might have got the start ahead of him, but he comes in and faultless, like literally faultless. Was he a superstar on the pitch like Payton? Possibly not, but faultless in what he did. And I'm not diminishing it, but like have that someone who might be two selections away, but has taken his opportunity from injury because of injury, and deliver the way he did. And the initial try, you look at the skill of Pascoe to hold, pass the ball at the right time to get that break. I mean, skills on the door. Excellent work.
It's like you say, going back to what you said about Jim and Dusty. I hate to say it because he's from them up the road, isn't he? But
Yeah.
he was the old school. And you got to think, what did they do back in the day? Their whole team was their academy, wasn't it? They were all born and bred. Like they played for them. They played for England. I mean, a lot of their
A little
side
bit.
was.
A little
Well,
bit. They did a
back.
lot of
I'm talking.
recruitment.
I'm talking about a long time ago. A lot of their boys that ended up being England internationals were through their academy, and you could probably say Dusty has brought that to us, and we've just developed it. But yeah, it's just lovely to watch. But I'm just so worried because the more and more we do it, the less and less we can keep. Because we don't spend up to the cap like certain clubs, and we're just producing so much talent, as you can see. So I said we need to what's his name, Russell Crowe on the pitch is like, are you not entertained? Because every week now you go home, it's just beautiful to watch. You say not the I know what you meant, but the Harlem Globetrotters, like they're just the way they play rugby, attacking rugby, it's just beautiful to watch. It's offload, like they slow mode one of the tries, and the offload and every pass before the tackle was just perfect. They just knew exactly what to do. It's bum, 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 try. It's, yeah.
No,
We're lucky to keep these coaches.
the skill levels, 100% agree with you, but I think the Harlem Globetrotters are like
Yeah,
a trick team, aren't they? They're
I
not really.
know. I know.
Saints are a proper rugby team
Yeah,
that play proper rugby. It just happens that their skill sets is exceptional, and some of the tries where they've identified space is, like you said, just beautiful. I mean, another player to point out, I thought had some unbelievable hands at the weekend was Archie Benson. What a player he is!
yeah. Big old boy as well, isn't he? He's a big unit. So again, back row though, isn't it? Our back row is probably one of the best in the country, and it's going to be tough for him. Is he been playing for Bedford?
He hasn't played for Bedford as much as say Pascal or Brown, but he has played. But I imagine he's been a travelling reserve a few times. But line out option phenomenal. Carrying in the wide channels, just like a certain Aussie six that we have as well. Very similar in that sense. But he's enormous.
He's strong. He's farmer. He's farming stock, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is. Yeah, they do. I think they do cows and cider, so it's good. All the good stuff.
Thing is, it's a good opportunity for people like that. Though obviously with Graham going, it's an opportunity to sort of put your hand up to be. And I'm not saying this is sure what's going to happen. Like they might still go to market, but it's a good chance to kind of put your hand up to sort of try and push the club to be like, you don't need to go, to market. You've got people in the team that could definitely step up into not necessarily into a full-on starting position, but someone who, like I said, is at least sort of in the 23 most weeks and is able to kind of do that. So yeah, it's another reason why I really like the tournament, because it's a really and they know that there's a space there that's coming up, right? Like it's been announced that he is leaving. Like it's not, so they know that they've got a chance to kind of put their name forward. That, and like I said, I'm not saying that the club are not going to go to market. They very well may do, but it's always a good opportunity for players to kind of stick their hands up and push for the club to feel like we don't need to do that. We've got the talent there in the squad now. Maybe it's a little bit too early potentially for those discussions around Benson. Like maybe if this had happened a year or so later, maybe it would be a bit different. But at least players are coming through and have been given the opportunity to do it. And that performance. I mean, the when the monsoon basically arrived 60 minutes in, we struggled. Like we did kind of struggle in the weather compared to Leicester. It kind of helped them out more than it did us. But that first 60 minutes was just like a blister in performance from everyone. And so all that they've done that entire 23, they've just increased their stock, and that's exactly what you want to be seeing at the end of PRC games. And like I said, we're not going to be able to keep hold of everyone, and like I don't think anyone pretends that we ever would be able to. But I've got to say that like the kind of business that the club have done over this season in terms of who has re-signed is really impressive. Like the people they've been able to re-sign is pretty crazy when you think about all the names that are staying on.
It's a tough ask.
It's insane. So I was going to say, it's insane to actually realise how many were out of contract. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, it's just, like most of our starting 15, like at least half of them. Oh my God! Imagine if none of them had signed, we'd be screwed.
It's because it's like it's that age group that have just sort of come out and they've just finished their first contract. So like, it must be a huge number of players that went from senior academy contracts into first team contracts. And realistically, how many of them do you expect to then kick on and be first team players? The burn rate's probably quite high, but I think in reality, quite a lot of them have. So you've suddenly got this huge volume of players that, oh God, we want to keep them all. Like, and their contracts are up at the same time. I think with that Graham's potentially, or no, Graham's leaving is, so what does he bring? He brings enormous ball carrying ability, doesn't he? That's his super skill. And you could argue, well, how do you replace it? Well, you could say, well, Chicken Pollock probably cover that, and so therefore potentially it opens up something else. And that's where that Charlie Alcock selection was really left field, but yeah, really interesting, because Pollock plays 7, but he also plays a lot at 8. And even for England, he'll come on at 8, etc., etc. So they might say, well, with Chick and Pollock, we've got really good options in terms of ball carrying. Do we look at replacing Graham with an actual more out-and-out 7? And for a first-team debut, I thought Alcock was pretty solid. I thought he got around the park, did a bit of linking work, hit rucks. hit men. I thought it'll be interesting to see how he goes if he plays the next few games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He looked quite good. He's got good hands. Was it his first game? Total first game, wasn't it?
Yeah, debut.
Yeah. I didn't see the whole game on TV, but is it Martin? Always mix his name up. The winger.
Yeah.
He was
James
playing
Martin.
fullback.
Yeah.
Oh, fullback James Martin. Yeah.
Yeah, he was playing fullback, weren't he? That little chip and try, that was a nice try as well. He looked good. That's the thing, we're so spoiled for wingers as well. Like the two that play, the fullback, and I can never say his name, the one you picked to score,
Kakasau.
He, like it said, like they're like what, fifth and sixth, probably seventh choice. It's insane.
It's crazy depth.
I've
for sure.
I've never seen our squad with this much talent and depth. It's just insane.
No, and it's an interesting point, like because arguably our first team are the best team in England currently, and therefore this 15 that played in the cup play against the best 15 every week.
Yeah.
You know, this side play against the best team in England week in, week out. It can only raise their standards, can't it? And as you said, there's so much talent in that. It's pushing the first team along. But the first team are probably dragging them along as well, and it just steel sharpens steel, iron sharpens iron. It's pushing the standards.
That's what Finn said, didn't he, in the interview we had with him, that he said, unfortunately he didn't play, but he said it's nice that the boys that always wear, is it the Reds, could wear the actual proper bibs this time. So I suppose that's what, like you just said, they used to being like played against the best, and now that's why it's going to work. Like you said, it's just going to improve every single one of them, isn't it?
It's another part of the model I think we get really right, and again, other teams seem to be following it. Is that the coaches that coach the first team do all the coaching for these PRC games? It's still Douse up there. It's still Vesti. It's the team, and some other people probably get involved. But you still have. Sorry,
Jake Sharp actually led this week.
Yeah, and Jake, who we've heard from him before. I think when I I can't remember which event it was. It must have been how the Premiership was won. I think Jake Sharp was there as well. So he is also like as involved with and he did lead it, but you still got like Vesti on the sidelines. Like you said, Douse sitting up there. Like how important they take it that all of the team is always together. They train together. They get experience with each other. And I said that's only going to lead to positives for people who are playing in the PRC, but also the fact that the coaches take all of it serious enough to still be involved, that it's still important to be involved, that they still want to be involved in the development of these players. It's not, you do get some teams that have a completely different coaching staff when it comes to the PRC, but I kind of like that we treat everyone the same. Everyone has the same opportunities, the same chance. Like I said, they get to train against, I don't even think we can argue with the best in England. We are the best in England at the moment, so they get the opportunity to train against them and get involved with them week in, week out. And then I also think we probably don't say enough about Jake Sharp, because I think he's an excellent coach, like, that along with the rest of the group. And yeah, it's definitely great to see him leading, but also that everyone else is still involved, that the whole thing is a team effort, and it's the same team. It's the same coaching teams, the players always getting involved. And you seem to see a lot more that's what other teams seem to be doing now, like that some of their coaches are still there on game day and still involved and starting to get involved. So yeah, it's all a really good kind of part, I think, of the model, and the way that we treat the academy like essentially the same as we treat the first 23.
They've talked about it a lot this week, and a lot of the praise has been because of it. I was talking about that DNA that runs all the way from under 15s all the way up to the first team and keeping it consistent. And I think why we got it really right against Leicester is that the team that played aren't seeing it as it's another game, which potentially I will say names just to give examples, not necessarily this is what they were thinking, but Henry Lindenberg and Harry Wells and Orlando Bailey, for example, are all regular first team players in the Premiership for Tigers. They're probably not looking at the Premiership, the PRC, with a huge amount of excitement or like opportunity, whereas almost to a man, everyone who played in the Saints team at that weekend saw that would have been they see it as an opportunity. They're excited to play. This is a genuine chance to put their case forward, to develop, get better, challenge that for their first team spots. Or I'm coming back for injury, don't forget me, or you've been picking chick ahead of me, so I'm going to go out and put a man of the match performance in so you remember who I am, sort of thing. Like that's where we got it really bang on, and the energy and the mindset of the players just completely blew Tigers away. Because if you are Orlando Bailey, who's basically played every game for Tigers this week, PRC is just like, I need a break, and why am I playing in this tournament? This isn't the tournament for me. I guess Tigers want to try and get something on the board, and I'm sure. I think he's doing a great job. Tigers coach Jeff Parlin, yeah, he's doing a great job. He really is. But I guess he sees this as an opportunity to get a trophy on the board in his first year. But and therefore he's gone strong. But it's the mindset, isn't it? Understanding the motives of the players. And I know it seems like Saints are just. I know they brought in a psychologist more and more, but they just seem to be hitting those selection and motivation pieces consistently right, don't they?
What more do you need for motivation than the derby, though? It's bragging rights, like it's literally the bragging rights. A lot of people work with people across the border, and it doesn't matter what it's for. Even if it's a pre-season friendly, you want to beat them. So I don't get why they just come and didn't bother. Because
it's different though, isn't it? Like for the fans, it's everything. For the players who have been ingrained in a club since they were children, it means everything. But if I'm not going to say a name because in this instance, but if you've just signed for a club and you go into a derby, yeah, it's exciting, but it's not live or die sort of mentality, is it? It's just another game. They're professional sports people.
You should be pumping that into them. That's the thing. This means more because it's a derby.
You can tell someone that as much as you want, right? You can tell people, but it's just words. If unless it's ingrained in your soul, it doesn't mean anything. Right? We've been fans for decades. It's ingrained in us. If you've just signed for Leicester Tigers, you're a professional rugby player. It's not the same as it is, and I know we want it is for some of them, all the players that come through the academies, it means something, but it's still a professional sport, isn't it? And
I definitely think there's something in it about, like there are some of those that if you're starting week in, week out, I said, you're probably already eyeing that as your chance to have a break, and then you don't get the break. And there probably is a part of that like psychologically or mentally, you're probably a bit like, oh, I was kind of looking forward to having a week off. And so even if it's a derby, you maybe struggle a little bit. Whereas like think about our players that played like Graham, Ram, Slights, like they're actually not regular starters at the moment. So they're not quite in the same place, like you said, as like a Liebenberg, a Bailey, a Wells. Like they're actually not starting week in, week out. So they actually do have a little bit more to kind of get up for. So I definitely see it from that perspective because we just blew them out of the water for 60 minutes straight. Like they just, and I think, don't get me wrong, a lot of that is to do with just how well the team played. But I can see how, like you said, the motivation for us was probably different for them. Like they also knew as well that they could lose and they're still going to be top of the pool. And so that probably factors into it as well of like, losing it for them doesn't matter. They only have to win, I think, one more out of their remaining fixtures and they'll top the pool and they'll go through. So it probably is really difficult for them to kind of, like I said, get up for it when you've already played quite a lot of weeks of rugby. Whereas, like I said, some of the people that played really well for us, like actually aren't playing week in, week out. So they're still a bit fresher. They don't feel like that break is necessarily needed. I mean, another player that I thought was really good was Henry Walker, who like hasn't played for a while just because of how sort of well the rest of our hookers are doing right now. Like those two kicks he put in were obscene. Like that guy was up for it. And even when one of his kicks went a little bit too far, like it was only a dropout, and so we got the ball back and we'd gained so much ground just from him deciding to hoof it all the way up the pitch. Like it was crazy. I thought he was absolutely like on one again to kind of try and put his name forward because like at the moment, like you said, you've got the two hookers playing at the moment, and you've still got Langdon that's going to come back. Like he's really trying to kind of try and get his name back into the conversation. So he was like fully up for it for that game.
He has obviously, like I said, he hadn't played in 10 weeks or whatever it was, and he played like 75 minutes.
Yeah.
Absolute shift, and he didn't stop once. He was class. I thought the starting front row was very good. I mean,
Yeah.
Ollie Scholar is 20 years old and he was absolutely giving it to Will Hurd. I thought he was excellent. And Cundiona is a just physical beast, isn't he? He is.
Yeah.
He carries well as well, and he's put a few nice passes in him. I can't quite think of what it was, but there was one moment where, like, they were offloading left, right, and centre, and he picked one up off his toes. He showed some real skill. He looks a real talent in the making. I think a real development option, and yeah, I thought. And then when they brought the bench on, fair play. Green hasn't played loosehead in a while. Came on and did a half decent job. But I mean, if you were to ask me what are the dimensions of Sungi Tongawiya, I'd say exactly the same as a fridge freezer. Like that boy is massive. The width of
Yeah.
him, he covers like a whole defensive slot on his own, doesn't he? He's a big lad.
And yet
He's
the fun
bigger
thing
than
about
his
it is like,
dad, isn't he? Which is mad.
yeah.
And it could be you're on about. I can't say that lad's name. You just say it again. The tight head.
Indiana.
Cleopas, Cundiona.
Is it
Indiana.
the old Tiny and Mooge regenerated?
Both tight heads, though, aren't they?
Both, yeah.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, I'm thinking of his
Yeah.
dad. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the-
His dad,
Yeah.
I think
well, his dad played
that's
tight head. Yeah.
that's the thing about Sonny though, is that like you said, he's an absolute unit, but it's not like it's not like fat or like unfitness. Like that kid is fit, like he's in shape. He's just also absolutely ginormous. Like
He's got to do something with his mobility a bit.
yeah,
There
definitely. Yeah.
is a few occasions where we've done a box kick, and he's moving. He's moving like a freight train that's just sort of rolling.
Yeah.
You wouldn't stop him, but he's not moving at a lot of pace. I think a bit of mobility and fitness into him, but he's got all the skills.
Yeah.
He's a good prospect.
Yeah.
No, I mean that's the thing. It's sort of danger now. We've pretty much said it all. Everyone on the team, and it's like everyone was so good. It's dangerous. We could just end up doing an appraisal of every single performance on the pitch. So we probably need to stop ourselves really. But top performance. I was completely shocked by not the level of performance or the ability of the players, but the way they blew Tigers out of the water. Really, the only thing I can explain in my head why that was is we were just better coached, motivated to go out there and do it. And McParland was front and center, all part of that. His energy at to 9 and was just unreal. I think,
Yeah.
with him, it's consistency. If he can deliver that level of performance and the level of performance he did against Bath every week, then I don't think I'm exaggerating by saying he will be challenging Mitchell, because it's that good. It just needs to do it every time he gets on the pitch.
And that's probably not a bad thing for Mitchell either. Like, don't get me wrong, he's out
No.
and out England's 9, but like it just means he won't rest on his laurels. And I'm not saying that he necessarily would anyway, but it just essentially guarantees that he's not going to, that he's going to continue to push himself. Because he's had a couple of performances like this season that maybe weren't quite where he would have wanted them to be, and so and he has since then, don't get me wrong, but having someone snapping at his heels, like, it's only ever going to be beneficial. I mean, don't get me wrong, you've got a hard job to try and push him out right now. Like I said, he's in at the weekend, he's England's 9, no one's even doubting that for a second. So, but yeah, it's only ever going to be a positive, I think, for both of them moving forward. And like I said, the more that Mitch plays for England, the more chances McParland gets. So he's only ever going to just keep improving. And then eventually you end up probably seeing him in the conversation a few years down the line for England himself, if he continues at this kind of level.
Yeah, it's very hard for a player when they're clearly second choice to justify pushing for England. But you're right, it could well do. But what it does though is, like you said, maybe Mitchell hasn't quite reached the levels in every game this, but maybe that's because maybe that's a factor that because McParland's getting to the level where you can trust it, throwing him into a Premiership game and him delivering, you can rest Mitchell a bit more and therefore allow him to get the best out of him, which like we've seen in the back row. Having such quality in the back row has allowed them to rotate, and therefore the performances have just been generally outstanding all year from that unit. The centres have been pretty good when they've been chucked in, and there's so much talent there. So
Yeah.
yeah,
To be fair, I mean,
it's
a large part of Mitchell's thing probably was that he played so many minutes for the Lions, in all of the squads for all of that. Like there was inevitably going to be a bit of a knock-on effect when he came back. And he's built himself back to, some of his performances just before he's obviously gone off now for England, like were superb. Like were absolutely fantastic. And we probably wouldn't have won without that level of performance on the pitch. So, he's definitely there, and it's going to be really exciting. Well, it's going to be a really exciting Six Nations generally, just because of the amount of Saints lads they called up and the amount that are in the squad for, six of them have made it in, which is crazy. To think that, 6 out of 23 from one club and that they've all made it into that 23 is we're in a really good stead.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
that's the thing. Let's talk about that. I mean, like Big Trev on the bench, like that's
I'm
what
so
yeah, I was
I'm,
going to say,
I am
just
so
about to say
excited. I
that.
can't tell you. I'm literally
Yeah.
looking at him right now because he's the player on the Fed month of the calendar. So he's looking at me. But I am so excited to see him get on for England. I cannot even describe it.
Yeah, I was hoping that Manny would be in there as well. Trying to remember who's starting on the bench for Loosehead. I'm trying to
Absolute. Here
have
we
a look
are.
at it's Bevan Rod. Yeah, okay.
Bevan Rod.
Which is
Yeah.
it makes sense because Bevan Rod's got some credit in the bank. Although
Yeah.
I think if you remember the Sale game, it was quite funny when they were saying how Big Trev had absolutely dominated him, and he was doing a job not only for his own credentials but also for Manny's. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's a shame that Manny didn't get in because he's warranted it this season. But yeah,
Yeah.
Bevan Rod's is fair enough. But I mean, there's some really interesting other calls around Saints players. Obviously, Pollock has sort of almost made it his own position. That bench impact player coming on, winning games.
Yeah.
I know it's the bomb squad, but it's like the Pollock role now, isn't it? Coming off the bench and just
Yeah.
raising the energy levels.
Yep. Is it the
Yeah.
bomb squad? Yeah.
Yeah.
He just excites everybody, not just the fans, it's the players. He just seems to. He has an aura about him, doesn't he? And he's not even. He doesn't even care. It doesn't affect him. Any hatred, any booing. And did you see this week as well? He's even good at bloody golf. He hit a putt from
Yeah. I
about
know.
25 feet. I was like, my God, this boy cannot do anything wrong. It's insane. And long may it continue. Was he 21? Yeah. He's a future Saints, probably, possibly England captain. You never know.
I'd have loved to have.
Sees his own thing, but yeah. Sorry.
I'd have loved to have seen him starting, just because this is no disrespect to Wales, but can't help but feel that's probably maybe I'm going to eat my words at this, but it feels like probably the easier of the fixtures just because of where Wales are right now. Like that, they could still put in a performance because of that. Sometimes that spurs you on. Like we kind of saw that about against Scarlets when we played them, but like I would have loved to have seen him start just because I don't know if necessarily the impact is as needed, but whereas maybe it would be more needed against like maybe a France and Ireland, even a Scotland, I would argue, etc. That maybe, yeah. So I'm kind of sad that he maybe doesn't get to start and we get to see like 60 minutes of him tearing it up instead of 20. But we've also saw when they showed what he did in the 15 minutes when he came on for Saints in the previous victories, in like the amount he can do in that length of time. Like he's certainly gonna still make a name for himself. But yeah, I mean,
That's the thing. I don't think they're picking him on the bench because they don't rate him as highly as Pepper or Underhill or Earl. I think they're picking him on the bench because he is almost unique in his impact. Like there isn't a player on the planet that makes a bigger impact than him off the bench. Like you said, the Sale game when he came on and just tore things up in 15 minutes. Like they're picking him on the bench because that's actually the position he's making the biggest impact on. But you hope that eventually they go, right, hang on, he's actually a stronger player than whoever. Let's just give him 80 minutes to do it.
Yeah.
It's just the energy he has is just
I
infectious.
think
When the game's like
just
trebling down, he comes on and shoots it back up.
I think that's the thing. I feel like potentially against Wales, like that wouldn't be as much of an issue as maybe it would in other fixtures. So I felt like that was his chance to start, just to see what he can do for a longer period of time. But I still get it from that at the end of the day, they've picked a side that they're making the assumption that Wales are going to turn up on the day, which is the assumption you should always make, because anything could happen. But
It's also a case of even if you're, even if you're beating them well, they're going to be going, oh God, and Pollock's still to come on.
Exactly.
yeah,
That's what I was going to
It's
say.
yeah,
like we're getting thumped, and
definitely.
they've still got Pollock and Curry to come off the bench.
And you
It
might
tells
even,
you.
if you're sort of, it's also potentially a situation of like, we assume he'll only come on for the last 15 minutes, but if you're comprehensively beating Wales with half an hour to go, he may get half an hour. Like, so,
Oh, yeah.
he may still get a decent length of time. But yeah, I think, yeah, six of them to be able to, for six of them to be able to get into that 23 is just magnificent, to be fair. I mean, people will argue until the cows come home that this person also should have made it in versus this person, etc. But, I thought it would be less than this. I didn't think that Trev, for example, was going to get in. So I still felt like pleasantly surprised at the amount of them that made it in.
Trev, I thought would because of sheer number of injuries at tight head.
Yeah,
The
they do have
other
lots of
option
injuries. Yeah,
is the youngster in the squad, isn't it? So it makes sense that Big
yeah,
Trev gets a shot opportunity. I
definitely.
mean, there's some really other interesting ones from Saints' perspective. First of all, like Saints centre partnership.
Yeah,
We've been calling it for a long time. Tommy, where's his best position has been we've discussed a number of times, but you know, 2 years ago we were saying I think Dingwall and Freeman is an international centre partnership, and if you remember, I said it's like a modern day Darcy O'Driscoll pairing. Like they really
Yeah.
remind me of that. But it's gonna be, what makes it interesting is at some point Finn's gonna be fit.
That's what I was
Right?
about to say. That. So, are you going to get the running lines and the passing from Ford? Not so much, but we'll
I
see.
think the issue
Tommy can
that
play
Finn's going to have.
anywhere.
The issue that Finn's going to have is I think after Wales the matches get progressively harder, and the fact that he hasn't played much and therefore doesn't have form going into it makes me suspect we're not going to see him, just because of the match fitness that the others have over him. I don't even think it comes down to like ability or levels of anything like that. It's simply just the fact that he already hasn't played for what is that, a month at this point. Are they realistically gonna drop the Ford and Smith axis when you're playing like a France or an Ireland and Finn hasn't played? I find it very hard to believe, but that doesn't mean it won't happen.
Well, yeah, they might. I think Marcus Smith might end up being a perennial bench player under Borthwick. So I think
Yeah,
that the thing will be potentially there could always be an opportunity if Ford gets injured or banned
yeah,
or whatever, whereby Marcus retains his bench spot and Finn comes in. I,
yeah.
I also then think like there is potential, right, of Finn and Thurbs coming in.
Yeah.
That
Mhm.
could happen. Could you imagine a 9, 10, 12, 13, 15 Saints back line? But like that's the dream, isn't it? That's what we want to see.
I was,
Yeah.
I
Like, do
think
we
maybe
start
that's
the
what I
campaign
was.
now?
Assuming that Phillips was fit as well, I was kind of surprised again that you wouldn't chuck him in against Wales. Like some match fitness under there. Because I mean, and again, look, we've said it, and this is nothing against Freddie because he's actually quite good friends with quite a lot of our squad, but like he's not the strongest 15. Like as an all-round player, he has certain elements of his game, like we talked about the his ability under the high ball. I still think is second to none, but it's everything else that's the problem.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of surprised they didn't chuck Ferbs in, but then also again, Ferbs hasn't played a lot, but then yeah, so who knows? Maybe he'll creep onto the at least a bench spot at some point to try and get some minutes and see. But
I think normally with the Six Nations, you find that the team that they name, regardless of who you're playing in the first week, but the team that you name in the first week is the side that you're going to play with for the rest of the tournament. You wouldn't go into Wales are the weakest team in the tournament, so we're going to play a few different players to get them some game time.
yeah,
But then when the crunch game comes around, we'll put Stewart in. Like you go right.
no,
This isn't a development tournament. This is an international competition, an international test match. You go with your strongest 50, your strongest 23, and therefore I think the side he's picked is the side that he thinks is the best 23 that he that and
yeah,
I because I've seen other people comment saying, oh, I would play this player in this match, but get him some game time, etc., etc. But it's not a development tournament. It's Six Nations, and from where Borthwick is in his current scenario, he's not one diddly squat, right? He is
yeah,
he is the director of rugby of the richest union with a thriving league and a whole host of talented rugby players, and he's got one of the worst win ratios in international rugby and he hasn't won anything.
Yeah.
Right? If he doesn't deliver, every Six Nations in going to, they should win. Right? But now, if he doesn't deliver a win in this Six Nations, he's failed completely. He's got to go, in my eyes. Like, how can you go 4 years or 3 years in England as an England head coach and not win a Six Nations?
Yeah, God, no
Yeah.
arguments from me. I know he's done well recently, but he's just not. He doesn't play the Saints way, so it's boring for me.
And
He started to, but it's just he
it's a,
gets it over the line. He plays it the Sarries and the them up their own way, doesn't he? He's sort of like, yeah. That's why he
it's
picks Ford.
Yeah, well, he's got to live and die by results, doesn't he? And at
Yeah,
the moment, results doesn't mean wins on tour against Argentina. Results mean how many trophies have you got in the cabinet when you're coach of England.
yeah.
Um, and in my view, there is no excuses at that level. You have to win trophies if you're head coach of England, and he
Especially
hasn't won anything, has he?
especially with the talent we got now. It's not like we've had squads in the past, but the talent he's got in every position is insane now. So
I,
he should, yeah.
I know the top 14 is full of stars, and there's a lot of money around, but the Prem, in my view, is the best league in the world. Like,
Oh yeah.
it's such a good league. The players in it are so good, and it produces so much talent that I just don't see any excuse to not be winning with England. I don't think finishing second matters. I think winning or nothing is the only result for England. But that
Coming
is
from an
my view from an
Australian, eh?
external
Coming
point of
from an
view. Yeah.
Australian. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, but is it not? Am I wrong? That's my.
No, no, no. I'm only winding
No.
you up. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah, but like to be honest with you, I think Australia stuck with Schmidt for too long. I thought the style of play and success was poor. But Australia are a completely different beast to England. Well, Australia is, they're barely hanging on whether the sport will survive in Australia, whereas England have got a thriving league, the richest union, sell out Twickenham every time, don't they? They should be the best team in the world, and having 3 years in the job, you've got to deliver by now. But anyway, that's beside
I
the
also,
point.
to be fair, I like seeing all the Saints lads in from a purely selfish perspective because I got tickets to England and versus Ireland. So I
Nice.
just selfishly want to see as many Saints lads as possible to like make the day
So
as good as it can be.
the dream is that Finn and Ferves make it for Ireland that game. That's the
Yeah,
dream.
exactly. But that everyone's in and Manny gets in, and yeah, there's just everyone's in, even though we know the reality of that. But I mean, overall, it's just a great place for obviously, like losing so many people. I mean, the news about Tadara genuinely made me wanted to burst into tears because I was just
Yeah.
like, it's the worst timing in the world because I genuinely think he was going to get some really good game time and really genuinely get the ability. And then obviously also from a Saints perspective, that is a long injury. So it's horrendous. Because we were, at one point that was 9 with England, 2 with Scotland, 2 with Italy, like just to show you where Saints are at the moment. That how many of them are getting called up, and I was just absolutely devastated for him. And it's such a shame. And I see he's come. I believe he's back with us now, and we are the ones that are kind of rehabbing him and working with him, which must just be this going to be a really difficult period for him, bless him. But yeah, I
It's
mean, we're
it's
still just doing
difficult.
so well on the international stage.
Yeah, it's difficult because I don't think there's anyone else with long-term injuries either. So it's sort of, when we had that unfortunate spell of knee injuries, the sort of
Mm,
the one good thing that comes out of it is like, well, there's three of them in the going through it together, and they can lean on each
yeah,
other and support each other. And he's a 18-year-old kid, and I don't think that we have got that. That's but I'm sure they'll get people around him and support him. But like you said, it's heartbreaking because I really thought he was going to explode onto the Six Nations scene. I,
yeah.
I thought he had everything to.
I
He
just
was
think,
good.
I suppose, the only thing I suppose working in his favour is like he's young. He's going to probably bounce back from that injury as quick as he can. Just he's got a young body that's probably going to be able to kind of heal nice and quickly, and that means he's still got so many chances. Like that career is very
Yeah,
very at the early stages. But yeah,
yeah.
you can't help but think that yeah, it's just such a shame. It's such a shame that. But yeah, hopefully he can get through that. And I don't know much about the injury about medicine, but I find it hard to believe we're going to see him again this season. But
Agreed.
so it's a shame on two levels, really, isn't it? Like his international career, but also the fact that he's like I'd argue one of like easily one of the first names on the team sheet for us week in, week out with how he's playing at the moment. And then don't get me wrong, it's a good thing for players like Slights, for example, who hopefully he's okay and he's going to be able to get a bit more game time because he's going to need it, and that's probably a really beneficial thing for him. But it's just really hard that it comes at the expense of someone who's got like a really serious injury that's a long layoff.
Yeah, but that's the way it works, isn't it? Like
Yep,
Todoro got his opportunity because of injury,
yep,
and ironically now Slighton, it's so annoying that he got a knock at the weekend, but he'll
yep,
hopefully be back for the rest of this tournament. But he gets
yep,
and ironically he was scoring tries in the Six Nations last year, and now he's got the opportunity to try and get back in the first team, in this tournament. Having had injuries himself. I think last note just to say quickly is also great to see Alex Coles, who's on the form of his life starting for England as well. Like
yep, 100%.
he can probably go really well. I hope he goes well. But I think we're probably there. Time to wrap it up. We'll talk about the rest of the fixtures next week. But I've been Charles, Jess has been Jess, Simon's been Simon. Thank you very much for listening. Remember to like, follow, subscribe, leave us some feedback. But it's been great to have a chat. So thank you very much.
Cheers. Goodbye.
Thank you.